What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Figures. As always, I am Tony, coming at you with a very special guest. I'm excited to sit down and talk to this guy, as I know many of you either bought a diorama from this guy or want to buy a diorama from this guy. You can catch him over on his Instagram and his YouTube channel over at High School Creations. There you can see his process, how he builds them, the tools he uses, and even very small, fine details like computer software stuff that he uses to do 3D printing and laser cutting as well. You can also go over to his Instagram at High School Creations. I'm not Instagram, Etsy at High School Creations. There you can see all his amazing work where you could purchase. And let me tell you something. I have lost many hours sitting on that Etsy. You can also go over to his website, highschoolcreations.com. There he has his Wall XD pre-orders and you can ask him questions and all that kinds of stuff. So without further ado, please welcome to the show the one and only Mike of High School Creations. Thank you so much for joining me, Mike. I very much appreciate you, man.
Oh man, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. I know we had some back and forth for a little bit to get here, but we're here now, and I'm excited to talk to you tonight.
Hell yeah, man. I'm very excited about it. Like I said, I've been watching you for quite some time. I've been watching everything from the inception of the Kickstarter for the Wall XD um, diorama to the other stuff that you do with your laser. Like the most recent video I watched of yours was the because I've been wanting a laser cutter, so I've been watching a lot of videos with laser cutters and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
watched your fire escape a tutorial with your
Okay.
laser cutter, and I was like, man, like I was always on the fence with laser cutters, and we'll start there before we get into collecting toys. Um, and I'm always worried about how hard it is to learn. So, like when you got your laser cutter, were you already kind of privy to, or did you have to go in flying blind and learn it right from the ground level?
Yeah, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to things. I rush in thinking, "Oh, I can figure it out. I don't need to learn anything up front." And to be honest with you, I ended up finding it was quite easy actually.
Okay,
If you can, learn to design like simple lines and stuff like that within the software. I specifically use like Lightburn, or if you know how to make vectors, it came pretty easy to me. I've been in software development for 15 years. So I'm familiar with software,
yeah,
but it was still a different animal. And I did a lot of YouTubing, like you just said you were doing, a lot of
yeah,
research. And prior to that, I did research on the machine that I wanted to get. I wanted to get a quality machine, and I stepped into a Boss Laser, which is actually made down in Florida, in the U.S.
okay, right on.
Very great and reputable product. Unfortunately, had an issue about a year and a half ago. Had a small fire break out. Luckily, heavy duty machine. This was when I was still had it in my garage at home.
Yeah,
The fire was maintained. However, there was a lot of smoke and a lot of damage to the machine. And
yeah,
recently, I stepped into a cheaper machine, an OM Tech. But yeah, dude, I go headstrong into things, and I'm
oh, yeah,
pretty, I'm gonna figure it out. I know I want it to work.
yeah.
I've seen what I want to do, and I've brute forced my way into making something happen.
Hell yeah, man. I'm the same. I'm the same kind of way. It's like once I want to learn, whether it's building a simple diorama or going in crazy into like getting a whole machine, because I did go down the route of a 3D printer. We'll get into that later, that debacle. But I'm going to start where I usually start with all my guests, and that is, when did you start collecting toys? What was the line that got you into collecting, and when did you kind of figure out where you're like, oh, I'm really deep into this now. I got a lot of toys on the shelf.
Yeah, honestly, I think this goes back to childhood. I was a big collector of,
Okay.
Ninja Turtles. Man, I
Oh
was
yeah.
a product, a product of the '80s. Turtles was the first big love, and I collected everything. Well, that was me collecting it or being force fed by parents, grandparents,
Right.
cousins, whatever. I had everything from undies to plates to action figures, and I still got that shit.
Hell yeah.
But
Wow.
I stopped collecting, man. In high school, I became that chip on the shoulder kid, drawing weird stuff in the back, but didn't collect. And then my first child was born, my son, in 2017, and had some time off from work and found those pictures and kind of rekindled that, a mindset
Wow.
change. I got back into collecting. I want to introduce him into things, right?
Hell
Like
yeah. Yeah.
Dragon Ball. Like we're going through Super for the third time with the family. It's great to, show them this stuff and them appreciate it and love it as much as I did. And
Yeah.
that got me back into collecting. And, now the shelves are full, but, I
Yeah.
have someone to share that with. It's not just me, it's them. And
That's awesome.
it's really cool. It's a fun experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to further up on that question, I got back into collecting with the kids, and I was making cosplay and stuff as just some kill some time. And I noticed that there was something missing when I was taking photos, and that was dioramas. Had the tools, like I was making cosplay stuff, so I was like, let me
Yeah.
try these dioramas. And I made my first one. It was shit, right? But I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is cool. It's fun. It passes the time, and I can do this with my kids.
Hell yeah.
And it's worse than a drug, man. I'm totally addicted and I'm head deep in it, and all my money goes into it, as you can
It
see, right? But
really is.
I love it, dude. And
Yeah.
it's a way of life for me now. I stepped away from my job doing software development for 15 years, and me and my wife both full time for High School Creations, also known as Diabolical Studios now. And we're doing it full strong, or we're all in, man.
Hell yeah,
It's
man.
a way of life.
That's a beautiful thing, man. That's a true American dream, man. You start from the ground up, and now you could quit the day job, the 9 to 5, to really focus on your own little piece of heaven here. Now, like that's one thing that I love. Like my friend has his son, and he started getting in collecting into especially GI Joe Classified because he wanted to he wanted that, like that thing that he could kind of share with his son, and that they could engage in it together. And I listen, I don't have children, but when I see that kind of stuff, it always makes me feel good because that's at the end of the day, toys are for children. You know what I'm saying? So when you can kind of see their love for it, it really it sparks your love even further. Where you're like, fuck, man, this is. I'm kind of glad I got back into this, or I'm kind of glad I picked this thing up at the store because now I can pass some knowledge on, or I can make now some great memories.
You
And
got more of an excuse to buy that toy too.
100%, right? For real, dude. What was the first kind of when you got back into collecting? What was the first line that got you back into it? What was it? Was it Marvel Legends, Dragon Ball Z? What
It
was
was it was the Legends, man. I came back into it totally blind. I did not know where, I'd had some Toy Biz toys, but I didn't know
it? Yeah,
what happened to Toy Biz. I didn't know about Marvel Legends stepping in and Hasbro. And when I came back, Hasbro was doing cool things with these things called Marvel Legends, and I
hell
just
yeah,
went crazy, man. Toy hunts, it was exciting. Then COVID hit, and obviously that kind of sapped up. But then we all got really honed into our own thing in the
man.
garage, and it exploded for me. But it was Marvel Legends, man, and I that chase in those first couple of years for Marvel Legends just, dude, got my heart racing, dude, and I
I
loved it.
know, dude. That seems to be a lot of people's like whenever I have people on this show, they always talk about the thrill of the hunt. And when you find like that figure, whether it's a Marvel Legend, GI Joe, whatever it is, you just get this level of euphoria, that you cannot describe to anybody, but only other toy collectors know about it. Because when they find whatever it is, like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were talking about how when you go to an aisle and you just move the first couple of figures because they're like garbage, and then you get like, see, you get to something like that where you're like, oh god, they finally have this guy.
Yeah.
Like it's just that feeling that you can't describe, man. And every collector I talk to, they always talk about when they got back into collecting, it was that feeling that was just like, oh, I missed this. I forgot what this was like,
Yep.
and it's one of the strongest drugs in the world is that dopamine hit that you get when you find, yeah, when you get that figure, or whatever it is that you've been waiting for.
Yep.
And or you find it's better when you find it in the wild. I'm sure you could attest to that. But it's because it's not bad when you pre-order it online and you get it in hand. You're excited that it showed up, but you're just kind of counting down the clock. When you go into the wild and you see it, and it's just like, oh my god, I did not expect to see this at the store today. It's a different feeling. It's a different kind of uh, 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 feeling of accomplishment, I guess.
It really is, and it's more rare, I think, at least for me, to find them in the wild. I don't pre-order anymore. There was many years where I,
Yeah.
I had everything pre-ordered. Like
Okay.
BBTS was, I had my full list, and it was
Yeah.
pages long, and I was totally deep. But now that I've stepped into trying to do my own business and things, kind of you know, fix the budget and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
You know,
everything I
same here.
find now is in the wild. Like I found this in the wild, and I waited because it
Yeah.
makes it feel a little bit more special,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh
Instead of having toys that I've just not opened, which
yeah.
is
Yeah.
not a good thing when you're paying 30 to $100 a figure, right? That's a
Facts.
problem.
Yeah. Facts. Facts. Now you said you took pictures of the figures. Was that something that you always did, or was it something that you got into because of toys?
I've always liked photography. Actually, before I even started collecting, me and a buddy just geeked out doing photography. Whether it was landscapes.
Yeah.
Also got big. I started YouTube in 2011 when
Okay.
YouTube first hit, and I was doing
Yeah.
like off-road biking, camping, and stuff like that. I just love the idea of photographing and video. I never got really good at it. I just like doing it and
Yeah.
just lost the time to do it. And when I got into toy photography, the big thing was seeing Sergeant Bananas Johnny taking those pictures. And I was like, dude, that is sick. That looks
Yeah.
real. Let me
Yeah.
try that. And that's when I started taking pictures and, figuring out how to do the camera angles and lighting. Again, I sucked at it, but, it got me into dioramas and just
Yeah.
started where I am today. That's the journey. And,
Hell yeah. Now
but photography, I've always loved
you
photography.
said cosplay.
Mhm.
What costumes have you made? Because I was into cosplay as well. I was deep into it for a while, and then when I came out of it, it was the same thing as like I wanted to. My hands still needed to do something, you know. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't make costumes no more, so, but I still want to be creative, and that's kind of how I started making dioramas because it was just like I need to still be creative. But what costumes? Just out of curiosity, what costumes did you make?
Made a Red Hood, had full, the armor, the
Oh yeah,
helmet, made some Iron Man helmets, some Deadpool helmets. I was using the EVA foam, so this was even
okay,
before 3D printing,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and even before I was laser cutting. So all handmade foam. Then you got the heat gun out there shaping it and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, I never made like full body armor. Just helmets was my thing. I've always loved helmets.
Helmets. Did you use the Pepakura method
Oh,
of the helmets, or did you kind of do it on like made your own templates and stuff like that?
templates and stuff like that,
Yeah.
using duct tape and saran wrap
Okay.
on just those cheap, Hobby Lobby mannequin heads.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. Because when I got into cosplay, I discovered Pepakura, which was like this Japanese 3D paper art that you print out.
Yeah.
And these guys were taking like Iron Man full suits, like the full suit, and they were retro, like I don't know how to say retrofitting, but like basically making it for like EVA foam. So like you could take it instead of making it out of paper, the tabs were much bigger and things like that, and like the pieces were much bigger, and you could now trace it on EVA foam, and you have all your templates for a full Iron Man. So I made like a full Iron Man suit out of EVA foam. It was the first costume I made. I used Peppercure, but the problem is because it's a Japanese program, everything's in like millimeters and shit like that. So if
Mm.
you're not like a fucking like really good at like math and all that stuff, like the measurements are always bad. You always might as well. There's times if I could tell you how many times I had to throw away a helmet because it was too small or it was comically large,
Right.
you know. But it was one of my fondest memories was making costumes because, like I said, at the end when I would step back and I was starting to make a Batman Arkham Origins costume, and
Uh-huh.
I realized that program couldn't help me there. And once I started going freehand and drawing my own templates and doing all that, that's when I started to realize, oh, this is so much more fun than just following
Yeah.
those templates because I would rather just do it this way, and I never look back. And it's always good to find another cosplayer and shit like that. Did you go to any like Comic Cons, like dressed up and stuff like that? Did you ever experience that kind of stuff?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. No, I went as Red Hood one year. I got the leather jacket. I had like the armor and stuff like that, and some guns. But that's the furthest I ever went with it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I went to my first con like in 2021 with the Enablers, and that was in Canada. I think like TrueCon. It was a Toy
Oh wow.
Expo. So
Yeah.
I hadn't even been to cons. Like I'd never been to San Diego. I'd never been to Comic Con in New York. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I don't know. I missed out on a lot of stuff I should have been interested a lot earlier.
For real. So now you're starting to take pictures, so you're starting to get into dioramas. When you start, like now, I know you said your first diorama was shit, but like we all start from the bottom, I guess, right? Before we finally start to learn the process and stuff like that. When you started making dioramas, right?
Mhm.
What was the thought process? So you were starting to take pictures, and then what was it like next? Like, oh, these guys need backgrounds, and then you started to kind of just explore that world. What did you find first? Where did you start searching? And what was it? Um, what was your thought process? Like, I don't know if this is going to be too hard, or if I'm even going to enjoy doing this kind of stuff. Like, so what was all that when you kind of jumped into the realm of dioramas?
Yeah, so leading up to dioramas, like I said, I'd always been like doing photography and stuff like that. Just been very interested with it. And my wife had got me a DSLR a few years before, and I was out, doing landscape photos. So naturally, like I took my figures out to parks, out to scenic stuff, and we
Yeah,
using that as my background. Unfortunately, that if the weather's not right or the sun's not right, then I can't take pictures.
yeah,
So I started seeing, oh, people are making these things. Like, let me see what I can do to make them. Right? I had the tools, and so the first thing
Yeah,
I did was, the foam trick with the bricks. Right? It's very
yeah,
tedious, but it looks good, especially after you add some paint, some dry brushing, and you're like, oh shit, that looks
yeah,
pretty good. So I started experimenting with just like scratch building stuff, and that's where I got into scratch building miniatures and stuff like that. Just these little things I had left over in the garage from previous projects, and slapping
yeah,
that stuff together. I had fun with it. I've always been like a tinkerer and a builder of my, with my hands, and I've been a big fan of architecture all my life. I tried to go to college as try to be an architect, and it just didn't work out.
yeah,
And this quickly became my avenue to fulfill that, that thing, that desire,
yeah,
that
yeah.
passion with
Awesome.
architecture. And you will see that I do a lot of city, I do a lot of buildings. I don't
Yeah,
do a whole lot of terrain, even though I want to. I just I always
yeah.
come back to architectural type stuff, and I love that. And that's kind of my thing.
Oh
But
yeah,
I was feeling a bunch, like all these roads converged at this one thing, dioramas, right? And it
yeah.
just felt like the right place for me.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. So when did you feel like when? Okay, so what diorama was it when you decided to turn around and go, I'm going to start making commissions, or I'm going to start doing this like as a kind of more than just a hobby. It's going to turn into not just like a passion. It's going to turn into a job or like my career.
Uh, Yeah, that's a good question. I started doing commissions way early, just because
Okay.
people asked, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, yeah, I can do that." Shit, I didn't need the money. Like I said, I had a decent job that
Yeah.
went to
Yeah.
college and did. And I was like, okay, yeah. So, a guy named Gary, which I'm still friends with, asked me to make him a warehouse die, and I did it, and it was awesome. He asked for a few more, and I was like, well, shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so I just kept doing it, and more people kept asking. The more I post on Instagram, the more people that would ask, and I never said no. And then my mind immediately went to, how can I not only scratch build these, but how can I repeatedly do this the same way every time? That's when I started
Yeah.
getting into machines like lasers. I started out with the Proxon, and I said, okay, what all can I do with the Proxon? And I tried to make a fire escape with a Proxon. That clearly doesn't work, but I tried. So then I moved on to, I got my hands on a CNC. I was fortunate to get a CNC, and I tried doing bricks and stuff that way.
Yeah.
And I moved on to the laser, and then I was cutting everything. My wife's like, "You're like a kid with scissors. Stop cutting everything." And at some point it just exploded. Really, it was leading up to the Kickstarter when I
Yeah.
was like, if the Kickstarter is successful, I've got to take this full time.
Yeah.
And the Kickstarter was in 2023. And it still took me 2 years to really make that leap. Right, I did it
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
summer, and I still don't know if I'm ready, but here I am. Right, but going back to the same conversation, I'm brute forcing my way in. Nobody wants these things, but I'm making sure that everybody really wants them. But you know, but it I I'm ignorant. Like I said, if I get my mind and I want to do something, I'm going to do it.
You're gonna do it. Yeah.
Good, bad, whatever it is, I'm going to say I did it. And here
Hell
I
yeah.
am today. I got a successful Kickstarter. It was a small Kickstarter, but I did it, right.
Yeah.
5 years ago, me would have been like, damn, hell yeah, man. I got product on BBTS, not just the walls.
Yeah.
I was in a TV show in Canada called Best in Miniatures. Like, this is shit that, like, it inside, like, I'm like, okay, I did that. But like 5 years ago, I would have been like, what the fuck, man? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Um, so I've just taken things way too far, and I've not taken my foot off the gas. I'm keep going, and I'm hoping in the next 5 years to do even more than that. Right.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think you could be a major because when I got into toys and stuff like that, I was originally collecting the smaller guys, and then I went to the 112 scale, and then it was because of photography. Like I started, I got into film school, and then through that I started doing photography as a hobby, and then I kind of realized that I don't like people, so I don't really want to work with people, so I don't want to like I didn't want to take pictures of people, I didn't want to like film like with people, so I just kind of got into toy photography that way. And then I went online, and when I got online, I started to find like, you find the groups and you find the forums and the message boards and all that stuff like that. And I started to find like the dio structure, Facebook a lot. It would have kept coming up in my feed. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, these people build mini worlds. Like I was like so blown away by like the amount of detail and all the stuff that was going into just these little things for action figure photography. I didn't realize, like, I'm just like you said, you take your figure outside in the grass, all right, that's a good shot. But boom, done. All right, I wasn't thinking like, no, you should world build with this stuff. Like I didn't occur to me until I started like really going in depth and really like searching up people and searching up like, well, wow, how does like when I found ACBA and I started to see how their pictures were, and you could just see like just the small nuanced details that's in the background, and everything's tangible, as they always say. And
Hmm.
you just kind of like, man, like I want to build those. Like I want a mini world. I don't want to just like I love taking my figures outside and shooting them. I truly do. But there's always something about when you build a whole diorama and it has every little piece, and you take a step back and you see through that viewfinder. Like it's like, yo, I just created this world, man. And it's
Yeah.
so, it has just this level of so much accomplishment when you get into it. And dude, and I'm not gonna lie, I always say this to people on go on the show. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Like I've seen like your work is stellar. Like it's stellar.
Thank you.
And the fact that you got funded on a Kickstarter, it does not shock me, because when guys like you show the passion for what you do, and it comes through on the quality of work that you do. You know what I'm saying? So when you say, "Hey, I'm going to start this Kickstarter and it's going to look what you can get," it doesn't surprise me when it funds as quick. Even if it takes 2 years, when it funds, it's because people see and they're like, "Yo, I want a piece of this because he's helping me build my world." That's the one thing I'm realizing with action figures now is we have grown beyond just having the action figure on the shelf. It's cool to have the action figure on the shelf, but we want more than that. Like that's why vehicles now are a thing, and
Hmm.
everybody's getting into dioramas. We want more than just that. Everybody says you can't build at 1/12 scale, and I think it's absolute bullshit. As long as you have the amount of space that you need or require, you can build all the worlds that you want in any scale. You could build it at 1/6 if you really wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So it's very impressive to see the explosion of diorama makers and diorama commission work that's happening now. When I went to Legion's Con last year, to see the amount of diorama makers made me so happy, because it was just like there's more than just me that wants to world build at this scale. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? When you got into that and you started to see like everybody, um I'm sure people come to you constantly for knowledge, right? They ask you question after question after question. So when you came to your YouTube channel, you started going, all right, I'm going to do tutorial work. Did you ever assume that this would become like a big thing, or did you just say, "Oh, this is just going to be a niche thing"? So yeah, my friend is buying some dioramas for me, but this is probably going to stay right here at this level. Did you expect it? Like, and I'm not just talking about dioramas. I'm talking about the action figure community and thing in general, because for the last 4 years we have gone from just Marvel Legends and DC multiverse to now you have literally every IP under the sun now has an action figure line. Like, did you foresee that, or when you started collecting, or was it just something you were just like pleasantly surprised like I was?
Yeah. It, I kind of, it seems to be somewhat expected as the advances in all these things, right? We're
Yeah,
in the golden age of action figures, I guess you could say. And, we have all these properties, all the ones that we love, plus all these new properties from indie toy companies, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Um, did I'm doing this because I love it, right? And whether it got me attention or didn't, I was going to be doing this.
yeah,
So the fact that it has now become this thing and it's continuing to grow, especially miniatures in general, along with the action figure community, is exciting because we love this stuff, right? It's like
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, am I in the Matrix? Because all this stuff is lining up too easy.
yeah,
uh, but no, it's awesome to see the amount of passion that many of us bottled up for many years and didn't really
facts.
share, at least with our closest friends, right? The friends that
Yeah,
we've been with 10, 12 years. And now
yeah,
we have this new generation of friends we all found on the internet that love the same things that we do. We connect in a different way, for all these similar reasons, right?
that's
I think
facts. Yeah.
I've really went too far with this question, but no, I didn't foresee. I just love this stuff, man, and I'm happy that I'm able to share this with people who also enjoy it.
Hell yeah, man! Like, it's one of the things where I was like, when I started collecting, it was Marvel Legends, and then you start getting into photography, and then one afternoon I'm like, well, I need more than just the obligatory supervillain for them to beat up, and then you start searching for military like mercenaries. That's how I found GI Joe Classified, because that just had it coming up out of nowhere, and then you start collecting GI Joe, and the next thing you know, He Man is now coming out with a cartoon on Netflix. So now they have a toy line, and then like you said, just these third party sellers started coming out of the woodwork, like Valaverse and Ramen Toys and all these other ones. You're like, whoa, I did not expect this. I'm happy. I'm
Mhm.
very pleasantly surprised that it happened. But I just when we started this, I just expected it superheroes and maybe some army men. I didn't expect this insane wave to come out to now where we're getting vehicles and people are rushing to the internet to look up guys like you so that they can try to build their own diorama or have you commission them one. Like you said, it's a golden age, and I hope it never ends because it makes me very happy to know that we are in an age where you can literally go to a store and buy a Masters of the Universe figure in 2025. If you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face because I just thought like He-Man and all some of these properties that are coming back, I thought they were dead properties. I just didn't see anybody who would still want to buy these kind of action figures. So it's nice to see that there is a market for all of it, and so that it did come back. Um, Out of all the dioramas you've made, I know it's kind of a bouncy question, but I wanted to answer this. What has been your absolute favorite diorama? When you turn around, and you look at all the dioramas you've made. What is the one where you were like, I nailed that one?
uh I think because this one um, plays from kind of like my history, and I actually got to do something for the first time. I got to build this huge, and I don't want to use the word dollhouse because they did not want us to say this on set, but on Best
Okay.
of Miniatures, I got to build this
Yeah.
huge house that was inspired by downtown Charleston. I live in Charleston, South Carolina,
Okay.
and this thing was massive, and it came out to be one of my favorite pieces because of the amount of pressure one to get it done, but
Yeah.
how it ended up turning out and able to accomplish it under all the um I guess the challenges that come in
Yeah.
with doing a competition build. But it came out great. It was the vision I had, and it's probably my favorite. um there's the second runner up is going to be the Epic Titty Diorama. It's almost a city block of
Wow. That's
three
awesome.
foot of foam,
Yeah.
with lighting and different building styles. I worked on it for 2.5 years, so you can see the evolution of my skill set changing in there,
Hell
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And so that was a real fun build. I have to say, Wall XD, obviously there's several pieces there and it's manufactured, but I designed that. I prototyped it in a phone, then designed it, then had it mass produced. I say mass produced, only 1,500 pieces of each level, but that's pretty big.
That still
And
counts. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a simple brick wall, but hey, there it is, and a lot of
The
people
fact
now
that
have it in their hands.
the fact that you can buy multiple of those and connect them and make a giant block, like a giant brick wall, which to me was brilliant. What was your thought process there? So when you were making dioramas, what was your like? Well, I want to like. What was the genesis of the Wall XD in your mind?
Just all the things that people have asked for over the years, right? They want modularity, they want customization, they want to be able to, make it big, but also keep it small, right? Have it
Yeah,
break down, be able to store it, right? Wall XD checks all those boxes. It's injection molded, so it's very durable. It's going to last a long time. It's not fragile like the foam is. The
yeah,
foam is great, but this you can throw it in a tote, put it in your closet, not worry about it warping in the next couple
yeah,
of months, right?
yeah,
And on top of that, like it connects. It could be small, fits in a DTOF, or like you said, you can connect a bunch, make a wall.
yeah.
With the corners, you can make full buildings. I've done that at Decon for a couple of years.
Oh yeah,
Like, and then on top of it, it's a blank canvas. Like you can throw your tags, you could repaint it, you can do whatever you want. And then at the end of the day, like there's this integrated peg system. Everyone is going to be slightly different depending on how you set it up. But
yeah.
then you could take it over your friend's house who has Wall XC, and you guys can make an even bigger Wall XC because they all connect.
Can they all
So
connect? Yeah, that's
yeah, so
awesome.
there's some community aspects too. But it just checked a lot of boxes that I heard, doing commissions, and I was like, well, why isn't there something out there like this? There is NECA, and it's not meant to, but you can take it apart and put it together. And there's a few
Yeah,
other, modular. I don't know how truly modular they are, but you can make them modular, right?
yeah,
So I asked the question, why? Why not? And Obviously there's a lot of things we can do better here, but for the first one, like, I'm very excited what this brought, right? It
Oh
was
yeah,
different.
oh yeah,
Here we are, 2, 3 years later, and I have another Kickstarter coming up, and I'm trying to take this again to the next level, offer some
yeah.
new themes and stuff like that, but still be backwards compatible with the main wall XC that came out back in 2023.
That's amazing, dude. Like I when I see like stuff like that, yeah, I'm always a sucker for like modular stuff, accessories when it comes to action figures. Um, when the price increases, like it's been doing with action figure stuff, I'm always fine with it if it justify like if you justify it by like giving more accessories. I know some people tend to complain about extra hands. I don't need all these hands, but it's like at least they're at least they're putting it in there. You know,
Yep.
they're increasing the price, but at least it's in there. So at least you could justify. All right, they have seven hands. I get it. Um, what how do you feel right now about all of the increasing in prices? I know people, the tariff shit. Everybody complains about the tariffs and what have you. I know it has a big thing to do with it, but like, are you? Is this where we're entering now in terms of action figures, where the price is just going to increase until we get priced down, or do you think eventually we get to a point where it's like, all right, it finally leveled out and this is where it is now?
Yeah, that's a definitely a hard question to answer. I don't.
Yeah,
Economics, macro, micros, all these things are going on. What we do know, right, is if you source from outside this country, it's more expensive. How
yeah,
long that's going to be that way is a gamble, right? You could
yeah,
order something today and there's a tariff. You get it in 30 days. There is no tariff. We don't know, right? This
yeah,
administration, good, bad, or ugly, whatever you believe, is causing some bottlenecks for
yeah, yeah,
supply and demand, right? Wall
yeah,
XD is made all here in the US. I don't have that problem except for sourcing certain materials like packing and shipping because I can't get it any cheaper in the US than I can overseas.
yeah,
Um, so there are definitely challenges, right? People, are saying the price increases. I think it's clear, it's out there. People should understand why there are price increases, right? It's not on them, right? They
yeah,
can't do anything about the tariffs. Prices are going to go up or their margins go up and they have to close or they go down. You have to close your doors, right? Businesses have to make a profit to stay in business and keep making cool shit. And to
yeah,
do that right now, they have to increase their prices to maintain that profitability, or shareholders, or if they're independents, they can't pay their bills, right? That
yeah.
profit margin is what helps them go to the next level and keep making cool shit.
So
With
do
that
you?
said, I have not raised my prices yet. I'm starting
Yeah,
to have to. Everything is increasing, right? And
yeah,
eventually, like, there's going to be supply issues, which is in turn going to cause prices to go up. So
sure,
it's hard to say, man. I really hope they get it figured out. I hope we're able to make prices back down. I don't want to charge people a lot of money for
yeah.
something, but at the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta
Like
do
you
to
said,
be able to.
in order to survive, sometimes unfortunately, it's just a part of life where the pain. I always, like I said, I never have a problem with it as long as it's justifiable. So like for instance, a lot of people complain about the maximum line, and I have my issues with it. Don't get me wrong, but if you're throwing in extra stuff and you're making it worth the increase, you'll never hear me complain. Like I'll just okay, that's what it is. It's just what it is because like things are getting maybe more expensive, but at least they're justifying it by throwing extra stuff in. So you're
You know,
not just
you don't have to buy it. If you don't like it, don't buy
that's
it,
true
right?
too.
If
That's
you
very
really
true.
love the character and you see value, buy it.
Yeah,
That shows that business, that company, that you're interested or not interested, right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's your power. That as customers, are able to make that decision. Um, but I agree with you, right? They raise their prices, but they are trying to, add more value. Could it be cheaper without those things? Maybe,
yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know the insides and
yeah,
outsides of
yeah.
their business models and all that.
Yeah.
The only people that do work there, and they're not going to publicly tell you. So
I gotta tell you shit. Yeah,
the price is what the price is.
yeah, exactly, man. Speaking of which, out of your collecting days now, what would you say out of all the figures that are on your shelf? What is your favorite action figure today? What is the one that if there was a fire tomorrow, you would rush to get that one first?
Damn. You know, there's a lot of stuff we've been able to collect in the past 3 years that tugs at my heart. And um, man, I'm gonna grab my Odious figure. I'm gonna grab my Mezco Green Ranger figure, and
Oh
then I'm
yeah,
gonna grab my 3 Zero White Ranger figure. Those are the three. I'm grabbing three, man. I'm running out. The
Yeah.
others I'm gonna be sad for. I'm gonna cry about, but I'm at least gonna grab those three.
Hell yeah. So you're a big Power Ranger fan.
I am, dude.
Yeah.
'90s. I don't know, man. Something about the early Mighty Morphin got me. I don't know if it was my mindset at that age. It
Yeah.
left an imprint on me, and especially Tommy, R.I.P. For some reason made some big impression on me, man. I've been a big fan all my life, even though
Yeah.
I was picked on for liking Power Rangers as a kid. I don't care. Like I will
I know.
collect.
Yeah.
Uh, so
That's good, man. I was one of those guys that I come from pro wrestling, so I was ridiculed for years for liking pro wrestling. So when it came to like that kind of stuff, like I never judged anybody. 'Cause I had a couple friends who got ridiculed for liking Power Rangers as well, because it was like the first. To me, it was the first of its kind, where it
yep,
was like a live action TV show. It wasn't like cartoons, because in the early '90s, especially in America, it was mostly cartoons. It wasn't really. It was live action. It was like Pee Wee's Playhouse. It was like weird shit, you
right.
know. So when that came out, like when people say like, "Oh, this is so stupid," blah blah blah. I'm like, listen, man, I get yelled at because I watch sweaty men, roll around in tights. I was like, I'm not, they can watch all the Power Rangers they want. I don't care at all, And when you watch it back now, like as an adult, you kind of watch it with that nostalgia, those font, like those beer goggles, essentially, because you're just like, man, I remember when I was a kid watching this, like, and so it's like you can't hate it now. It's impossible to anybody to dislike this stuff. Um, you're the first person to say they would say Power Rangers. Most people always tell me it's like a Marvel figure, or like somebody showed me like Amigo one time, and I'm like, geez, I was like, there's a lot of different. That's one thing I love about this toy space. It's always different. Like everybody, one person is always different from the next. No one ever will save the same figure. I've noticed. It's always somebody always has an affinity for something completely different from the next,
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I love.
some of my thought process too there is those figures are going to be harder to find than some of the others that are replaceable because the way
That's
that
true.
Hasbro re-releases figures, I could probably get it cheaper than buying it
That,
what I had before.
yeah, it's a
But
fact. Yeah.
Mezco and 3-0, I don't think they'll be releasing those. Maybe, but you know how Mezco is and
Oof.
3-0 is. They don't really re-release. So
Yeah. What is your favorite of the like the non-main companies? So like what is your go-to in terms of like, do you like Monster Force? Do you like Valaverse? What is the one that you would like go to? What you go to?
well, I'm a Sparrow's Toys fan. I mentioned I would take out my Odious figure right away, but like I think the biggest every Kickstarter they've had, like
Yeah.
I've been at almost the top tier. Like I love their work.
Oh yeah.
Jason's a cool guy. I dig, like I was a huge Thundercats fan, and
Yeah.
I dig what they did with the articulation. Unfortunately, Super 7 did not please us with the articulation, so I had
Yeah.
to get away from those figures. But I
Yeah.
really like what they've done with Animal Warriors of the Kingdom and how
Yeah.
far they've gone. The scale of different figures, like that is my go-to. I've not gotten to Valaverse. I've been very Valaverse curious, and I just haven't pulled the trigger
For sure, yeah.
on a Valaverse figure. But I think what he's done is super awesome. I love the work that he's doing. You can see the passion that he's putting in his figures. I need to get my hands on some of those figures. Obviously, I
Yeah.
just talked about in parallel, super indie, but such a like. I was watching his live, listening to his thoughts on it as he built
Yeah.
it up, seeing the Kickstarter. Like I'm all in on Odious. Anything he releases, like I'm probably gonna buy. I have a
Oh
bunch
yeah.
of head sculpts when he used to release those. So it's cool to see those like from concept to
Yeah.
inception to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So like he's got me. Hopefully my kids on next generation because they have the Odious plushie.
Yeah.
This is not sponsored by Unparalleled Universe, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see those lines. So Adam Van Winkler and why am I blanking on their Kickstarter? But the Cursed Dead line that came out
Okay.
early this year in January. Like I helped at Decon this year. I had some of their Kickstarter figures on my table, and then they launched their Kickstarter in January, and that was successful. And they got some dope stuff coming out.
Oh
And their sculptor, has been sculpting figures for like 30 years. He sculpted some of the figures that I first had in my hand as a young kid.
Your
So
kid.
it's really cool to know those guys and see like what the work that they're doing, and the passion they're bringing, and the IPs, of properties that they're bringing into this action figure community. So it's really dope to see that. We're at a
That's
good time.
amazing. Hell yeah. I'm a big fan of Animal Warrior Kingdom figures as well. For a while, I kind of stayed away because I just was like, well, do you, and you bring up Thundercats, and that's a great point because I never really accumulated the two together, equated the two until just now, until you say that. Because when I started getting into them, it was because I was sitting around one afternoon and I was like, I would love a gorilla army, like a monkey army, kind of like Planet of the Apes, but I would love like a medieval version. And somebody, if it was somebody in the chat, I was doing a live stream, and they said you should definitely check out AWOC, and I'm like, okay. I was like, I remember seeing them in passing at a toy show, just never really stopped to really kind of take a look. Maybe I will at the next one, and I did it the next one. Literally that day, walked out of there with 4 AWOC figures. And now every time I go to a toy show and they're there, I immediately go to their booth and I go, I gotta grab one of these because they always come out with a cool one. It's always cooler than the next. And I love. I'm a sucker um for that kind of style of art. You know, like I like their art style, and it was really um they really hooked me once I paid attention. You know what it was, dude? Is like I didn't never realized how big Mythic Legions was. Like I
Oh,
didn't realize until I went to Legions Con last year. Like I didn't realize that it was this huge thing, and that's where I found AWOC. That's was like holy shit! Like I didn't realize that this Mythic Legions thing, this fantasy figure. I didn't realize how popular they were, and until I went there, it was impressive, and to see those guys come as far as they did, and now like I have Valaverse, I could vouch for you if you're curious, I could help you cure your curiosity. They're worth the money. They're definitely worth it. Yeah,
that's the thing. They're great values, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
They're solid figures for the price range of what he's providing you, and that's what people want now, right?
yeah, yeah,
Same thing with AWOC. For what you're getting AWOC, the sculpt, the paint apps, like the amount of accessories you get, the
yeah,
articulation, like it's all there. That's what people want. They hear what people want, and they're giving it to them at a good price, a value, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um.
It's worth
Anyway,
it.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
worth it.
worth it. It's one of those things where I I was always a Hasbro guy, so it was always Marvel Legends and GI Joe Classified, and then I would I would never go down the wrestling rabbit hole because I just couldn't do. I don't need 12 versions of Shawn Michaels. You know, I don't need. You know, I'm
Right.
okay with. You know, I'm okay with the one. I don't need him in. Oh, he's 1994 gear, he's 96 gear. I don't need all that. You know, so like that's fine. So I always just thought it was going to stay He Man, GI Joe, and Marvel Legends. It wasn't until like I said, you start to kind of peek behind the veil and you see what's this toy company? What the hell? They're making these toys, and you see how amazing they are, and you're like, oh, these are, if not better than some of the major players. You know, you didn't know, you don't realize until you kind of step out and peek behind that curtain. And I'm like I said, we said this before. It's a golden age of toys, and I'm happy that that's where we're at now. Um, so let me ask you this question. Um, what is the next toy that's coming up that you're excited about? Is there any lines that you're like, oh, I'm gonna sink my teeth into this one? Or is there any pre-orders that have come out recently that you're like, ooh, let me can't wait for this one?
I'll be honest with you. Since I, like I was saying earlier, like this summer, I went full time into high
Into
school
this, yeah,
creations, and I put my head in the sand. I was talking to Darius the other day, and I was like, I don't know what new is coming out,
yeah,
and he's like, Don't be ashamed, like you've been busy, and I was like, Yeah, I've been busy. I've been behind and stuff. It's taken me a while to get stuff out,
yeah,
and still, yeah, I'm doing it full time. And honestly, I don't know. Like I've just been picking stuff up as I see it. I do know there are some Kickstarters coming out with some figures. Like I know that Wade on Parallel Universe is going to release
yeah.
the next line of ODS. Looking forward. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm on the lookout for that. Hasbro continues to drop stuff. I've missed almost every one of, was it Marvel Legends Monday or two, whatever it is. I don't even remember
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
And I don't know. I see bits and pieces when I hit Instagram up, but I try not to let that suck me in because that's what they want, right?
right.
Instagram,
The rabbit
Facebook,
hole.
man, they want you in there,
Oh yeah,
and I I have a job to do, right? I got to get this stuff built. So I jump on there to, see if anybody needs anything, but I don't know. I honestly don't. I need to check it out.
How's being so busy now taking you away from the photography and things like that? Because now you're focused on this.
It really does, but I have a workflow where I build,
Okay.
build, build, photograph,
Yeah.
because I have
Yeah.
to have product shots, right? And then
Yeah.
I go back in the cycle of design, build, build, build. So there's these cyclical things that happen, and I get back into them. And every time I learn something, apply it, and keep going. Um, but here recently, I've been so freaking busy. I'm trying to grow a company, right? I'm trying to make
Yeah.
sure I can take care of my family
Oh yeah.
making toys, right?
Yeah.
And so I've taken on a lot of work. I'm trying to do big things. I'm trying to, break through my own ceiling. And so that's kept me really grounded in the
Yeah.
shop and keeping me busy. And I still have a family, so I want to give them enough focus. Trying to be an entrepreneur
Absolutely.
is difficult.
Yeah.
Kind of balance everything out. And all at the same time, trying to manage the stress level of, oh my God, what have I done? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm very focused on doing quality work and
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
what I promised out to people,
Oh
and
yeah.
also working on the future to make sure that high school creations is going to be around for a long time.
Yeah. Now that you got the Wall XD funded and you're kind of focused on the next wave of the Kickstarter, do you still accept like commissions? Like if somebody hits you up and wants like an XPS foam diorama, are you still accepting those kinds of commissions, or are you like, nah, 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 I'm too busy on this aspect of high school creation?
There's a couple things, right? It depends on what it is, right? If it
Okay.
sparks my interest, yes. Because of demand, we know supply and demand. My time
Very, very
is
precious.
very limited now
Yeah.
because of all the
Yeah.
things I got so many different projects. They are more expensive. I take on a lot of these are behind the scenes. They've not been released. I hope to be able to talk about them in a 6 months to a year. But I've been doing
Yeah.
production work for short films, some YouTube films, and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
do those kind of things. But the run of the mill, like Etsy, hit up for a commission. I've pipelined it to a commission at High School Creations. Send them all there. The problem is my wait list is ridiculous. Like, who wants to
I
wait a
know.
year for a dio that's going to cost, $500 or $600? If you do, hit me up. But that's the truth, right? It's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
take a while. I unfortunately am a one man shop for now. I hope to bring in some other designers in the future that will help me get this work out. But I
Yeah.
can only touch so many things. So the things I'm focusing on are the things that I can do repeatedly. So
Yeah.
that's like on Etsy, you see like the 3D printed things, right? That's where I'm focusing. So I can get more out. I can make those artistic connections more there
Yeah.
than I
Yeah.
can with XPS ones.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be on manufacturing side really and growing that. So,
That's
but
amazing.
I do some, but
Yeah.
not as much as I used to.
Well, listen, when you like you just said, you start growing the business starts kind of taking off or starts rolling in a direction where it can't, you just can't obviously devote the time to get like right like the nitty gritty of XPS foam and doing all that carving and all that stuff. Where it's because like I the Etsy store and I go, like I said, I go to there daily. Um, has some of the coolest shit, and if it's the fact that it's all 3D printed is badass too. Those wall fronts, like those building fronts, those are 3D printed.
There is only 3 diodes, I think, that are XPS foam, and that's because I haven't converted them over
Over
to
there.
3D.
Wow.
But what I've tried to do is what 3D printing allows me to do is see a
Yeah.
visual render of it. XPS foam, you have to draw it or
Yeah.
design it in 3D and then go hand carve it, which I still love to do. I like scratch building, but there's a different, like I said earlier, I was in software development. I love technology. Like
Yeah.
there's so much I can do in Fusion, which is what I use primarily, to build out these scenes and buildings, and then I can make them customizable. I can make it
Yeah.
modular. I can do all these things. I feel like I can do anything in there, right? And
Yeah. For real.
I don't feel that with XPS foam. When I get to XPS foam, I'm still thinking about using 3D printed parts. So there is still these hybrid approaches, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I apply the same techniques with 3D printing as I did with the foam. The foam is just the base. The 3D printed part is just the base. I'm still applying textures and paints just like I
Yeah.
did with XPS foam.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that I can move quicker with is, like the buildings, right? Having the same building every time. Then I can just change paints or signage or textures, and then I have
Yeah.
a completely different diorama, and I
Yeah.
can get that to more people quicker, right, at a fraction of the cost because it's my time. XPS is
Yeah.
going to take me longer. That means there's more time. That means it's going to cost more money. This way, it's a little cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And I still get to create these awesome things.
Pieces. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
so
amazing. Do you have how many 3D printers do you have in your shop then? Like how many printers do you have going at once?
Well, right now I just got this fixed, and we can talk about it more. But directly
Yeah.
answer your question, there are 30, 34, 34. So
Nice.
31 are FDM and 3 are resin.
Okay.
Um, and what I found out is, growing a farm, like there's these things you don't think about, or at least I didn't think initially, is load on your circuits.
Yeah.
So I had to, in my shop, have a company come in and, determine how much I needed, how many circuits, how many breakers. And then I had all that, rewired into a new space that is turning into the print farm because we are going to scale up past 34
Oh.
here in the future.
Yeah.
And, basically I'm in the process of resetting all that up. So right now only 20 are running because we're in the process of swapping over from our one location. And
The next one. Yeah.
when running a business is not just me building dioramas, right? There's all these operational things. There's
Yeah.
logistics for shipping. There's making sure like your packaging and shipping section is fully orchestrated so you can ship stuff out fast, right? That's
Yeah.
It's not just dioramas. With 3D print farm, like there's all these aspects I have to maintain and think
Yeah.
about daily, right? That all go hand in hand. So like when people reach out, like, hey, where's my commission? It's like I realize, but we have dates, right? I can't work on everybody's stuff at one time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like there's the whole other aspect of operations that I don't know. I should make some videos about it, but it's just I don't know if people think about. And
You know what it is though. If you made videos about it, you would actually enlighten people who don't understand the process. Because a lot of times these processes, people tend to just think just because you have a 3D printer, it's easier now, or it's quicker now. But you still got to understand there's a lot of intricate, delicate pieces that go into all that, and you have to respect that. Because when I got a 3D printer, I had gotten a resin printer, and I don't. And I say this all the time. I didn't respect the craft enough to have a 3D printer. So I did I wound up giving it away because I felt like I didn't deserve it because it was like it would fail more than you would have successful prints. And then every time I would speak to somebody who was in 3D printing, it was always such a simple mess up, and it was just because I didn't respect it enough to learn the right way. I just thought, oh, you just do this, this, and this. And I watched a couple video tutorials, and you just think you're there already, and you're not. Like there was times where I had it not level perfect, and it would mess up. There was times the temperature played into because I had it by a window and not realizing that, it's fucking December in New York, and the cold air is coming. Like I'm not paying attention to that stuff. So it was just like I didn't respect it enough, and I think when you make a video like that, kind of explaining the process of all of this and running a business and running 34 printers, things could happen, and problems can arise, and you just got to respect the process and respect the person who is able to run all of that and continue to run all that and make it as a well-oiled machine as you have. That's impressive.
It's not well. I fail every day, 3 or 4 times a day, right? But yeah, I appreciate that. But that's why I love it, man. I learn, I try to fix it, make it better the next time. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is a challenge every day.
yeah, dude. Do you enjoy the other like because the resin print to me always like that's the one I had,
Mhm.
and I always got nervous like when I gave it away. I was happy to give it away, and then now I'm in the process of getting another one, and I'm just, like very intimidated and very scared because I don't know if it's gonna like if I'm gonna have the same problems. I am gonna respect the craft a little bit better. But do you like resin printers better than the other ones, or would you prefer like which kind of 3D printer do you prefer when you're in the process of making something?
My mindset, and you ask somebody else, they might think differently, but it depends on what you want to print, right? If you want
Okay.
organic, sharp detail, you're going to need to go with resin printing. Now you can almost get there with FDM, but you're still going to have layer lines. That's not the
Yeah.
case with FDM. But for like dimensional stuff, and I'm going to finish it anyway. You're never going to see the raw material unless you order raw parts from me. FDM is what
Yeah.
it's dimensional, right? With that said, I run both, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
All the prototypes for Wall XD was originally done on the Mega 8Ks. I had three of them lined up back in 2023, and it was 27-hour prints each wall, and I ended up getting like 30 prototypes out.
Yeah,
And so I've been in the trenches. There's a lot of overhead with resin printing, which they're coming, they're getting away from that, right? With these automatic cleaners and all that auto bed
yeah,
leveling and stuff. But there's still an overhead. Those chemicals are toxic, right? Now there
yeah,
are toxic filaments, right? ABS, you
yeah,
don't want to breathe in and all those exotics. But if you're just getting into the hobby, FDM is the way to go. Most of the newer FDM printers are pretty much an appliance. They're like a washer, like a dryer. They just work as long as you feed it a file that you've
yeah,
printed before successfully. 95% of the time it's going to print the same way, right? You
yeah,
do have the environmental factors and failures in your filament, but it's going to work, right? And so you have to make that call, right? What level of modeling or what kind of stuff are you going to be printing, and how much overhead do you really want with it, right? Resin,
yeah.
you got your IPAs to clean it, you got gloves, you got cleanup and stuff.
It's a lot. Yeah,
FDM, PLA, pretty easy.
yeah.
Both of
That's I
them
think.
long term, like resin. I found resin pieces from like 5 years ago that have split open in a box, right? They don't last, right? Same
Wow.
thing with PLA. PLA is meant to biodegrade over time, especially if it's near moisture, right? That's not going to last forever.
Yeah,
So you gotta look into
you
what you
gotta
want to
really
do.
learn. Yeah, you gotta really learn, and that was the thing that I didn't. Like I said, I didn't truly respect that part of it, like to learn all that stuff, because that's stuff you need to know when you're going to get into this kind of work. Because listen, I know printers are kind of affordable now, but it's still an expensive investment when you get into it. Because like you said, especially resin, there's so much shit that you got to have with it. The cleaning thing, the resin itself, the gloves. You always got to make sure you clean like it properly, otherwise it could mess the whole thing up. It's a whole thing. So when you jump into it, you got to make sure that that's something that you truly want to get into, because it could be could be very messy. Or I think honestly, like you kind of convinced me maybe to try the other printer with the PLA or whatever it is, those, because I've never. My friend has one, and he's had failures, but it was because of like the environmental stuff. The same thing, like it was too hot or it was too cold. But he has never really had a truly fuck well, like, man, one time I had that stupid resin printer. It was off by a millimeter, and the whole thing it just didn't work. Like it was just such stupid shit with that damn printer, where I was just like, god damn, if you just would have learned it correctly, you would have been so much better off. But I think I needed to fail that way, so that now the next time you learn it the right way.
Right, right. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the smart play. Let me ask you this question: is the one I close out the all the interviews with is do you see a shelf life on your collecting days and this whole high school creations, or are you riding this wave until the wheels fall off?
Shelf life on collecting, I think I'm kind of there, right? We've had such a strong lead up to the past couple of years of
Yeah,
just property after property, and not only are they properties, but they've been done so well.
yeah,
Um, I'm not collecting as hard as I was at one point, and so that's a slowdown for me. So I will always collect. I don't know that I will have every one of them displayed. I will
yeah,
hold on to them, right? I didn't buy them to resell them unless I happen to need to at one point. High school creations, I'm all in. If I
yeah,
got some checkpoints in place, 3 months, 6 months, if stuff isn't right, I still have hopefully a bridge at my previous employer I'll go back to. But
yeah,
I am all in. My mental, I'm not. It's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking years, 5 years, 10 years. What am I going to be doing? And I hope High School Creations, aka Diabolical Studios, is going to be the company name. I will always be High School Creations on Instagram, but company name
Diabolical
Diabolical
Studios.
Studios is what I
Great.
hope to run with, and I hope to have something that's a Valaverse or a Walk, but for dioramas, right?
All right.
And we'll see how that happens. Again, I'm kind of ignorant and I go headstrong into things, not really
Yeah,
knowing all the details, so it may not work out. But my heart's there and I want it, and a lot of people are supporting me, family wise, to do this. So I hope to make people proud.
brother. I Listen. I can honestly tell you from what I've seen, or getting to a point with collectors where they want more than just a toy. So I think you're going to be just fine for the next couple of years, because I think with the more that these things grow, whether it's the GI Joe line, Valaverse, whatever it is, the more people are going to want to take pictures or display. So there's always going to be a market for this stuff. So I think, I mean, and you got, like I said, there's only a few of you guys that do these kinds of like dioramas on this kind of level, and I think you guys got something. Let me ask you this last question. Apart from the Wall XD and the next Kickstarter, do you see plans for like massive style dioramas for Diabolical Studios? Will that be the next Kickstarter? Like you said, you made a city block. Will it be something like that where you're going to come out with something massive?
I have a lot of stuff in the backlog that I want to release, and I what I'm doing is what is the value add, because it is expensive to manufacture, specifically injection mold these large pieces. Is it more economical to do additive manufacturing, FDM printing, to
Yeah,
bring these big dioramas to life, or is it manufacturing? And I haven't figured that out yet. I definitely have stuff in the backlog that I would love to bring to life on that scale.
yeah,
I just don't know if people are, and maybe they will. Do they want to pay 300 or 400 bucks for this large thing, right? That is manufactured. I at a number that makes sense, right? I know
yeah,
there are
yeah,
people that do, but they're buying them now on Etsy. But it would take to manufacture it, 150, $200,000, probably
yeah,
just in metal, right? To make
yeah.
something that big. Um, Maybe one day we'll
Dude,
see.
I tell you what, man, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody, but I would invest in some. You
Okay,
could
all right.
figure a way. I mean, because I'm always, I love world building. I never thought I would love it the way I do. I just love, I love, because I got into stop motion and play motion beyond photography, because I went to, because I, like an idiot, went to film school, and I just felt like I needed to apply this, whatever the fuck I learned there, to something. So I just started applying it to toys, and I became like a pain in the ass about like the set dressing. It has to look like legit, like it's an actual set. So to me, things like that, like if those things were on the market, you would have my undivided attention. You know what I'm saying? So like I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the entire toy community, but you would literally have my you would have my vote for sure, and I am sure plenty others, because everybody loves this world building thing now. I didn't think it would become what it is, and it sure has become more than I expected.
Well, if that's the case, and you guys that are listening, prove it to me, because as soon as I can't make as many diodes that come in, that's where I want to shift, right? That's the trigger to say, okay, we got to take this to manufacturing because I
Yeah,
can't print enough for you.
yeah,
Until then, I'm going to keep 3D printing them.
hell
So
yeah,
let me
man,
know.
hell yeah. Mike, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You can catch Mike over at High School Creations over on Instagram and his YouTube channel. You head on over to his Etsy store, again, High School Creations, as well as his website, highschoolcreations.com. This has been Talking Figures. I appreciate all you guys for watching. That has been Mike. I am Tony. And until next time, guys, keep playing, man. Take it easy.
Bye.